Hello, hello. It's Kim Snyder, creator of the Voice Club Method and director here at thevoiceclub.com. A little bit of a late start because I guess Facebook's doing something funky today and is not working. So I just posted a message to everybody to hop on over to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thevoiceclub, or you can go to thevoiceclub.com and click on our live stream. At the top, it has a button between, it'll say a little Facebook icon or a YouTube icon. And if you choose YouTube, it'll switch over to that stream and you'll get it. Either way, if you're not watching this live, you're just fine. So what do you care, right? Okay. I was going to go through Oh Holy Night today, but something happened over the weekend and I thought, this is such a great opportunity, because if you've ever watched any of my videos before, you know that I say that every fail is not a failure if you know what to do with it. Every fail, if you know what to do with it, is an opportunity. Let me tell you, I had an incredible opportunity this weekend I want to share with you. But first, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do so. It lets me know that I should keep doing this. I don't do this for me or to sell you stuff. I just do this to serve you. So please do that. And please give me your comments. And today especially, I want to know what comes to your mind first when you think about a fail, when you've gone out and sung someplace, and at the end of that you thought, I'd like to hide under a rock now, please. You know it's happened to everybody. I've worked from everybody from people that think they're not singers to people that do this professionally, and everybody has stories. We are all just the same. And I'm going to share mine today to prove it. This is one of those ugly things that singers don't talk about because we think that others don't fail. So if we first feel like we're the only person who fails. And then when we do, we think we can never, ever let anyone know this happened. It's a lie. And I'm going to hang my dirty laundry out today for you to let you know that this happens to everybody. And I'm also going to use it to give you an incredibly valuable tool that I give to my pro singers that I work with personally. And it's a special rule that gives you a special tool. Boy, that rhymed. I'm feeling like Dr. Seuss today. Just so that you can use a singing fail and turn it into something really useful for you. Because if you know what to do with a fail, it's just an opportunity in hiding, okay? All right, if you manage to make your way to the YouTube stream, if you're on there, go ahead and pop in and say hi so I can know. I know most of you prefer to join on YouTube, and I don't know what their deal is today. I just think if everyone would stop updating their software every 3 days. Old lady rant, just saying. Okay, so I had an opportunity to gig. I knew that there might be potential to do this Christmas event that was going to happen, wasn't, because of all of the standards changing with COVID. So I honestly didn't even write the date down because it was so up in the air. I didn't put it on my calendar. I just gotten calls from a couple different people, and we were all kind of waiting to see what was going to happen, the new mandates coming out. And by the time I got the call that they were going to go ahead with it, I didn't realize that it was going to be in 2 days. That's my fail. I'll own that. Now, for those of you, and many, well, at least some of you are going to be people I've worked with privately before, you know that with my private students, I don't accept excuses, because there's almost always something big we could have done to avoid them. So those excuses are not helpful. However, there are really things that go wrong, and that's what we're really going to talk about today. Sometimes you do the best you can do. Sometimes you make mistakes that you could have solved, and that's a lesson for later. And then we turn around and say, what can we do with that information, and how can we use that to be a better performer live? So few people are performing live right now, but it is going to happen. And when it happens in your area that you can get out and sing live again, it is the most incredible learning opportunity you'll ever get. I used to say that the worst you'll ever sound is in the studio, but then I was going through the new GarageBand and Logic because I'm going to do a tutorial series for you guys in the new year. And I'm like, dang, you can't even sound bad recording anymore. What's up with that? Now it turns out the place you're going to sound the worst is live. However, you cannot really grow your talent without the experience of live performing. Because if you take any really great, even live YouTube performer and put them in a live with an audience and they're not used to doing that, it is a totally different environment. And without the ability to do that and be able to pull it off believably, you can never really do half of what you want to do as a singer. You won't have nearly as many opportunities. And if you like to sing, that's kind of the joy of singing, is having calls that say, hey, would you come and sing? Right? It's So just saying, live singing is really important. But it also means that you can only plan for so many things. I'm going to tell you the story of my gig that failed this last weekend. I'm going to tell you why it failed. I'm going to tell you what parts were my fault, totally own it, what parts were out of my control, the result of that, how it made me feel, and what that means to you when it happens to you. And then I'm going to give you my pro tool to help you find out how to take that gut-wrenching feeling of I'd like to hide under a rock and I'm never telling anyone I sing ever again. I hope everybody forgets my name, and turn that into something really beneficial for you, because it can be done. Okay? I'm a professional failer. Just want you to know, if you think you failed, I'm pretty sure I got the corner on failure. I mean, just as an example. So we had this gig. It turned out to be 2 days from the day. And I've moved, right before COVID, I moved to out of downtown Seattle, luckily, out to a suburb across the water. So really you unplug. It's like a whole different, like moving to another state. And so you don't have contacts, and we didn't get a chance to meet anybody here before everything got locked down. So I don't really know any musicians that I can call for anything. And this event was at a large church. They were having a holiday event. And I said, sure, I'll come and do some songs for you. I don't have any musicians I can pull in for this. And they said, oh, we've got a guy, don't worry about it. And I said, okay. And then we talked over songs. I picked a couple. And actually, I had met the gentleman I worked with, who's a wonderful, wonderful man, and I adore him. I've only met him the once before, but we had talked since, and I just have the greatest respect for him. But they said, oh, he'll do it. It'll be fine. And if any of you work in churches, you know that you get volunteered for stuff all the time. This happened to me all the time. And you'd be like, people said things, promised you could do things that you're like, really? You promised them I could do that while you have me doing 17 other things? Okay, I'm going to try to pull that off. It puts everybody kind of in a hard situation. We kind of had one of those kind of situations this weekend. So it turns out when I showed up for the rehearsal, we had never played together before. And this is just not ideal. This is not something that you ever want to happen, but sometimes this stuff happens, right? So I did what I could. You go through, you learn the songs, and you figure out the arrangements. So we communicated back and forth what the arrangements were going to be. And he had about 16 other hats to wear that night. I had nothing else to do but sit around and wait. And so we had 30 minutes of, hey, nice to meet you. Let's figure this out for the 3 songs. And then we went in a back room and tried to hash some more stuff out. But it turns out that 2 of the 3 songs were in a time signature that he had just never had anything that he needed to play that time signature before. And then it never occurred to me that, oh, time signature. And you know why? Because I don't play an instrument. I'm a singer. Time can change, and you can change the time signature of a song. And we do that all the time with old songs. We put them in 4/4 now, which just means if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, instead of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's all that's really as simple as all music theory is. But they just give it big words, so it's confusing, and you have to pay to learn it. It's just my opinion. Okay, so time signatures have changed throughout time. Even we were doing a lot of old Christmas. 2 out of the 3 were really old Christmas songs, and they used to all be 3/4. And it totally, because I've done a lot of event bands, and we always did the original versions, it totally didn't come to my mind that in a church setting they're all doing the 4/4 versions. So he knew the 4/4 versions. I knew that, well, I've done the 4/4 versions, but that was just not what was going to come to my head in the last 30 minutes. It just was, and I admitted that. I said, look, that ain't going to pop up in my head tonight. It's going to be 3/4. So we're trying to figure out, okay, well, if we just do this and that, and I had decided in my great wisdom to put a mashup of 2 songs together, which seemed like a great idea lyrically and musically, until that moment when we first worked together, and I realized that I had put a song that was in 3/4 timing and mashed it up with a song that was in 4/4 timing, which would have worked if I'd done the first song in 4/4 timing, but blah, 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 blah. All that to say, my brain was not going to pull that up in 4/4 timing. So all of a sudden, here we are right before the event, and we're like, oh crap, this is going to be interesting, isn't it? So you rearrange, you do the best you can, and then we have the talk that you just say at the end of the day. And this is the really important lesson. Sometimes you do all the prep you can, and actually I have a really good 6-step pro prep plan that I take all my singers through, how to actually prepare a song like a professional, to make sure that you've done everything that's possibly within your hands to do to make sure you sing your best. And it goes way beyond words and notes. There's a whole lot more that you can do to make sure that you sing well. But sometimes you do all of that, and in every live performance, there are going to be things that are out of your control. Now, should I have put it on my calendar and prepped ahead? Yes, but so yeah, I'll own that. But we wouldn't have been able to get together any sooner anyway. It just wouldn't have happened. So we were going to have the same problem that we had anyway. I actually had done some a cappella stuff and would send some arrangements back and forth. So we were trying to communicate and get this all. But sometimes you get there and you're like, you go through it and you're like, this is not going to work this way. Boy, it sure would have been great if we'd worked together before or had, and one other time. But here we are, and this is what it is. Once you've done everything you possibly can do, you've prepped on your own as a singer, the musician has done their thing, you've done as much as you can. Sometimes it's the singer hasn't done as much as they can, and I've seen that a lot, and I've been guilty of it too. Sometimes the musician hasn't done all that they can, and sometimes that happens too. Why? Because we're all human. Sometimes both sides, if you just, whether you have a whole band of, 10 people and 6 singers, or you just have one singer and one instrumentalist. Sometimes everybody has done everything. I've been here too. Everybody has done everything that they possibly can to be prepped. And something or many, usually many little things happen at the event that make it a no crap moment. You're like, we're just going to see what happens with this. And all you can do before any live performance is the moment before you sit down and you say, all that matters. And this is very, very true. I was really fortunate to gig enough that I love testing things, if you can't tell. I used to test out different approaches to everything just to see how the crowd would react. And I would kind of keep this tally of how big was the cheer? How long was the cheer? Were they amazed? Were they ignoring? When did they react? When did they engage with it? Because it was really fun to do because you're singing the same songs over and over. Hey, Kevin, it's nice to hear from you. Are you on YouTube? I bet you are on YouTube. Yes, that's Facebook isn't. Okay, so Kevin is the first one to join us live. Kevin, I need to know if you will admit to telling us your biggest I sang, I sucked story, or I played, I sucked. It's talking about guitarists. I believe, Kevin, you're a guitarist, from what I think you are, from everybody I get to know online. So, okay. So when you've done everything you can, and you're at a no crap moment, you've done everything you can, but you realize there are going to be some things that are going to cause this not to go off nearly as well as you had hoped it was going to go off. Then you come down and say, what is the most important thing? What are you there to do? I mean, do we hope we'll impress people? Sure we do. Do we hope they go away thinking you're the best singer in the whole wide world? Sure we do. We always do, right? That's the dream. But in reality, there's tons of good singers, and somebody's opinion of what a good singer is going to change sometimes, depending on how many different singers they listen to in a day, right? But the goal of performing live is not about how they think of you at the end of the day. The goal of performing live is how you make them feel. That is the goal. And in order for you, the singer, or me, the singer, to make the audience feel like it was A, worth their time to listen to you sing, or B, hopefully many steps above that, to feel like they really, really enjoyed investing that time in hearing you sing and or play, then you need to be able to give them an experience. And that seems like a tall order for a lot of people. Like, I hardly ever sing. How am I supposed to put together an experience? Let me tell you, it's like all things that everybody wants to make complicated. It is really simple. It starts with this. When we had this come to Jesus meeting, literally, at the last few moments before the gig, and we said, some of these things are going to go awry. This is not going to go the way we wanted it to. But you're going to have fun, and I'm going to have fun. And you get this everybody's got their little look, their oh crap look, when you look at someone like, I missed that where we were going to come in because I forgot we changed that right before. Or, oh, I came in there and you were going to come in there. And everybody has your look. But when you have a look, even when you've not worked with a musician before, your look has to be with a smile. So you're like, you look at them and they see oh, I'm so sorry I screwed that up in your face. But everybody else sees a smile. And then your focus has to be on having a good time. You have to say, okay, here's where we're at. Looks like some things are going to go wrong that we hoped weren't going to go wrong. You're going to do what comes to your mind. I'm going to do what comes to my mind. You're going to follow me when I screw up. I'm going to follow you when you screw up. And we are going to just let it go and have a good time. because at the end of the day, if you don't do that, you cannot give the audience a good experience, and you cannot make it worth their while. No joke, I have tested this to death. I have failed so many times as a singer. I have sung some loud and proud, really horrific notes before, when over half of the very large audience had not imbibed in alcohol. So I know they were very conscious and heard exactly what it is. And I have tested some different things, and I've learned that at the end of the day, if you can make them feel like they heard something somebody else didn't hear, or they caught something someone else didn't have, or you made them laugh, or you made them have a good time, they never come back and say, oh, you screwed up that note. They come back saying, man, that was so much fun. That was so great. And they never say anything about the bad note. And I'm telling you, I've had some really rough audiences. Matter of fact, after the first song, someone came up to me and said, boy, this is a rough room, because I was interacting with people. It was part of what you do. And she said, wow, this is a really rough crowd. And I said, no, it's not. I didn't think it was a rough crowd at all. I thought they were great. And I said, no, I've had some rough crowds. I've had some things where you pull out every trick in the book to, to engage and connect with people. And they're just like the whole time. And honestly, I've tested this with those audiences too. They will not complain about the bad note if you do some other things. And it all starts with the one thing. Have you decided, after you've done everything you can, and you find out some things are going to go wrong, have you decided that you both or all, whoever's involved in your performance, even if it's just doing a track, you've decided I've done what I can? Now, when I make a fail, I keep moving on. And if you've watched my videos before, you know that I've said that being a professional is not being perfect. Being a professional is being really good at failing. That's what a professional is. It's not failing. It's what you do when you do fail that leaves the audience focused on the good and forgetting about all the screw-ups you did. I had some screw-ups this weekend. Matter of fact, my husband was going to record it. He said he did. And I was going to authentically show you my fails. I was prepared to do it. Turns out the red button he pushed didn't go to the recorder. I'm not sure, but there was no video on there. And okay, the singer in me was a little bit happy about that, just saying, okay? But let me tell you some of the things that went wrong, that were out of our control at that point, because we'd not had a chance to work together. We had 2 different time signatures issues. And then at the very, very last minute, like 10 minutes before the whole event started, we changed all the arrangements and tried to simplify so that it wouldn't be so obvious that we were going to have some of these time signature issues. So we knew the songs, we knew the map of the songs, the arrangement, everything. We'd both done all our work. But then when we had a time signature issue, we went, oh crap. So we knew going into, first of all, it's never ideal if you have more than one song, if you don't get to do them in a row. If you have to split them up, one song, sit down, one song, sit down, one song, sit down. You're always at a disadvantage as a musician and or singer, because you get momentum. First song is kind of where you settle in, you feel where the crowd is, and as you're nervous with different environments, you settle into a comfort level. Sometimes usually toward the end of the first song, you feel like, okay, I'll survive this, right? Then if you have to go sit down and come back up later, you have to start all over again, just philosophically, in your whole setup of everything, because now the crowd is in a slightly different place. And there may have been something serious before you came up to do something lighthearted, things like that. So the mood can change by the time you get up again, and you can feel like, man, I lost that ground that I gained in my comfort level. So we had some things working against us. Number 1, we had a time signature issue. Number 2, because of the time signature issue, we had to change the arrangements literally right before the event on 2 out of 3 of the songs. We also had to change the tempo because the arrangement turned out to be different than we both were thinking in our heads, even though we'd done the planning, because we hadn't played together before, and it couldn't be helped. So we knew we were going to have trouble with at least 2 out of 3 of the songs. First one was going to be our best one. Number 2, number 3 were going to be, we'll survive. And I gave them the advice that I give all my singers. And I said, at the end of the day, first of all, it's about if you and I decide we're going to have fun and we're just going to follow each other and do the best that we can, we're going to give them a great experience. And that's what they're going to remember. But number 2, if all else fails and you're feeling really, really hideous about anything, remember this. Every day has 24 hours, and they're all eventually going to end. Sometimes that's a bad thing because you're having such a great time, you want it to go on forever. But tell you what, I've sung so much that more often than not, when I'm up there, even when it's a great night, there's something that happens that's out of my control that makes me feel crappy about myself. And then all I can think is, I wish this was over. And you know what? You are guaranteed it will be. It only goes on so long, and then it's over and you can leave. And then you can put into place what I'm going to give you at the end of this episode, which is going to be super helpful to make sure that you can recover and recover from a gut punch, a singing gut punch, in a way that makes you able to get up and do it again and learn more every single time. Matter of fact, it's a tool I developed as a regular performer that I did. Basically, it was my survival guide, that if I was going to let the things that go wrong, sometimes totally my fault, sometimes out of my hands, make me feel like a horrible person and a useless singer, I would never sing again. But I loved singing and I wanted to go sing again. So you got to have a survival tool. I'm going to share mine with you at the end of today, okay? At the end of this live stream. Okay, so you've done everything you can. You want to smile the whole time you're up there. And oh, are you going to share with me guitar and keyboards? Okay, yes, I knew you played guitar. You can remember several years ago, a church group played at a different church. Oh, now you got to finish that story, Kevin. What happened? What went wrong? Tell me your fail. Okay, you type that in while I'm telling you what I failed at. We got up there. We had some tempo issues because we had changed the tempo. There were times that I went back to the old tempo. I'm not sure if he went back to the old tempo because honestly, I was so focused on my own mistakes. You normally would play piano and keyboards, but you had an excellent multi-instrumental. Oh, I love those people. Berkeley student. Well, there you go. He was playing. Okay. Now we've got like two stories. This is a soap opera. Kevin's in the middle of telling his fail. I'm in the middle of telling you my fail. Now we switch and scene. Okay, so I'm screwing up the tempo. Sometimes the tempo is going where I'm not expecting it to. And I know the words. I know the songs. I've done them before, but I had a lyric on my iPad because I had changed some arrangements. I had lyrics. And I'm half blind. I don't wear glasses most of the time because I'm lazy. And because if I can't wear glasses when I do videos, and I can't wear glasses when I'm on stage because of the glare. And I've just never found glasses that solve that issue. So therefore, I have to learn to read blurry stuff, because that's usually when I have to look at stuff and read it, is when I'm doing a live stream or a video or I'm live. So I just need my eyes to adapt to that. So while I had them there, I have a system of charting that allows me to glance past as I'm looking past people, and I have a way that I work the audience. And as I move to the next section that I'm looking at to engage with people, I will catch a visual cue on my lyric and pick up. And I set my visual cues where I think I'll fail. Matter of fact, I'm going to do a series of songs, how to sing different songs. And I'm going to walk you through that 6-step prep plan and show you exactly how I mark those things, how I find where I'm going to fail, how I make those things much less, not as much chance that it's going to happen, and how I mark my lyrics and how I actually set up my lyrics so that when I have them, I don't ever read lyrics, but I have a cheat sheet to keep me from failing as much as possible. And scene, Kevin says. We open with Awesome in This Place. I love that song. Yes, several years ago, but I'm older probably than you, Kevin, so I get it. And I could not find the first note. Oh, yes. Fortunately, one of the backup singers picked it up. Had many more glitches, but this one sticks out. Yes, this happened to me Saturday night. When we started running through the song, there was one place where he was holding a chord, and then I think we were doing a key change or something, and then I was going to come in. But the chord he was playing, for some reason, my brain could not pick that note out. And the second time we went through it, I said, okay, I got to have you play something with that note in it, because I just don't think I'm going to pick it up, because I just not heard that arrangement before. So that happens. By the way, Kevin, this has happened to me singing live in a festival with over 40,000 people, where the arrangement goes, but because they're players that, usually players are filling in, and you don't always work with everybody, and sometimes people play things a little bit differently. And there was a sparse chord at a place that usually there's a full chord in all the other bands I played with. And the sparse chord didn't have whatever note reference my brain obviously relied on. And I was there, and I was like, in that split second, no clue what the note is on that song. And I just went into some trilly little thing and went on notes and faked it until they played something that I could find a reference from. 61 this Saturday. 60s are when you finally settle into maturity. I'm looking forward to it. I'm almost there, my friend. Yeah. Older and wiser. It's just underrated, but it's definitely true. I couldn't wait to get 40 so I could not be a kid anymore. I started in radio when I was in my teens, and everybody I worked with were big, giant, big, boom, boom voices of men that were in their late 30s to 60s. And they were all professional and big personalities and tall people and everything. And I was always the kid. I couldn't wait to, when I was 30, I was so happy I was out of my 20s. When I got to be 40, I got to spend a decade being sick. That kind of sucked because I was really looking forward to my 40s. So now I'm just catching up. Just saying. Okay. So sometimes you can't hear the note reference. You can sing to a track and have practiced it and be live, and something can happen in the room that gets your focus off for a second, and then you get lost. You forget where you are in the song. Has this ever happened to you? I need to know in the comments. For one, I think we all should just admit our junk. We're all imperfect. And two, it'll make me feel a little bit better. Would you do that for me? Okay. I'm telling you my junk. Okay. So there were some places that, and also we changed the keys of everything. Now, again, I'm a big believer in a singer should be able to sing and be able to sing in lots of different keys. And if you have to change key, this happens often, and you should be able to do this. That has happened too. Exactly. See, it's happened to us all. I could mention a million fails that I've had, and you've had most, if not all of them too. If you've gone out and sung more than a few times, this happens. And this is honestly why a lot of singers don't want to go out and sing live. But it is so incredibly valuable to you, because at home, in your studio, even if you're live streaming concerts, you will never have what you get as a singer when you decide, okay, I'm going to let it go. I'm going to have fun. And when I screw up, I'm going to get better at redirecting them to have a good time, because what you get off of the audience then is the most amazing thing. When you see that they're connecting with you or they're singing along, things like that. I said something that made someone cry. I didn't mean to, but it was about people not being able to travel for Christmas, and I'm usually the first one to cry. And then I felt really bad about that. But when you see people responding emotionally to what you're doing, it is a whole different level of satisfaction as a singer, as an artist, as a musician, than singing perfect notes. It's just a whole different thing, and it makes you a complete musician. It just is. I would never, if I knew I was going to fail 50% of the things that I tried as a singer, obviously and horrifically in front of an audience, I still would go sing live, because it's that incredible, because you can get so good that they don't care how many notes you missed. They had such a great time, and they can't wait to hear you again. I'm telling you, there are things you can do, and it's all about the quality of what you give to the people, not the quality of the notes, as happened. Okay, so we closed the night with Oh Holy Night. Came up at the end and did Oh Holy Night. Now, okay, a few things. I done Oh Holy Night a ton. I used to do it at one of the big mega churches I was at. We didn't really do soloists, but the pastor got to pick someone to do Oh Holy Night, which is because he got to pick the song and the singer. Only on Christmas Eve. It's the only time he got to pick. And he'd always pick Oh Holy Night, and he'd always pick me. So I every year I would try to do it totally differently, which is fun, because it's kind of hard to do Oh Holy Night differently. But I always had a really great band, and we could do whatever we wanted. Okay, so you have to know that I've sung this song. Expectations are high. Also, you need to know that my husband was there. I rely on my husband. He is my rock. My husband spent over 20 years in the recording industry. I've spent over years in the radio industry. We're industry people, okay? So we've heard a lot of professional people. We've been around a lot of people that just ooze talent, okay? So our comparison of what is good versus not okay is probably at a much more strict level than anybody else, because we've just been around really great people for most of our careers. So I also married my husband because he's really blunt and honest, and I need that, because I'm a blunt person. And you know, if you've watched any of my videos, I will spit stuff out there, and I need someone that say, yeah, that was probably not a good thing to say. I need someone like that. And he is the kind of husband that I never, in 26 years, I have never asked him if I look fat in these pants, because he will tell me. And that's why I don't ask that question. Just saying, ladies, got to have an honest man, but then you got to be smart and not ask the questions you don't want to know the answer to. Okay, so my husband's there. He's heard me sing Oh Holy Night a kabillion times and do it before my voice was damaged, before my body was damaged. Then you take into effect that over the last 10 years, probably over half of the last 10 years, I've spent either not speaking or not singing because of my medical condition. So talk about vocal rest and vocal damage. On top of that, I'm just going to be really real with you guys. I've not vocally worked out like I normally always do for months, like consistently. I just have a regular thing. I haven't done it probably for a couple years at this point because of the level of pain I have from the scar tissue from when they sliced my vocal cord. Because it causes a lot of pain, it gives me migraines. And then it gives me sinus pain, and then I can't get it to go away with medicine, and that aggravates my nerve pain in my back. And it's just like, if I don't have a gig, it's not worth the pain, you know? And I found out about this 2 days before. So I didn't have the time to do what I needed to do. But here's the beautiful thing. If you're training your muscle and you know how to train muscle, and I think there's less than a handful of people in the world that actually know what they're doing, and I'm not joking. And just go watch the 5 videos of what happened to me. I wouldn't have a clue. I would have no clue if those things hadn't happened to me. I would be one of everybody else, just saying. But almost nobody even knows it exists and that you can do it this way. But if you know how you're training your vocal muscle, muscle is memory, right? If you've been in shape as an athlete and you get fat, football players, they stop playing, they become super fat, but then they are going to go do something athletic and play on a, volunteer league or something. They get back in shape pretty quick because their muscle has muscle memory. Same thing with the voice, muscle is memory. So I know for a fact, and it can make me lazy sometimes. I have to really be on myself. And I usually use my students. I'll say, okay, here's where I'm lazy, and here's where you can condemn me and nag me and text me and say, are you doing this? You can get me back for all the things I've done to you, because everybody needs accountability. And I let my private students do that for me. So I knew that I hadn't worked out like I needed to make myself comfortable to know that I could pull off all those songs in any key that we needed to, because I knew I didn't know the musician that I was going to play with. And that's something normally I would prepare for, the eventuality of having to sing this in probably 6 different keys, so that I was comfortable with how I was going to approach the song in all of those keys so that I would have less chance to fail. And that's something normally I would do in my prep time. I didn't do that this time. And I got a little sloppy, and I thought, well, muscle memory is going to come to my aid. I've sung this song a million times, and I know better than to rely on the things I just told you I relied on. So I am really, really, really to blame for this. So we get to Oh Holy Night. We've changed the key. Now I know that the key that we put it in is a key that requires me to completely change the way I approach the song if I wanted to sing it the way I had sung it the day before when I was practicing the songs. If I was going to sing that song in that key, I would have needed to change my approach to several different parts of that to be able to pull it off. But I didn't. I didn't practice it in a bunch of different keys because I was lazy, and because there were 2 days and I had a bunch of other stuff happening. So whether that's totally my fault or not, I'll take the bullet for that one. So when it went into the other key, I did what happens to everybody if you don't practice a song in a bunch of different keys, and if you don't have your vocal muscle in the kind of shape that it can handle singing a song in a bunch of different keys. I approached the song the same way in the new key that I did in the old key, and I know better than that. And when I did, it caused some problems. And some of those problems included some notes that were not notes I wanted to come out of my mouth. They did not come out the way I planned for them to, that were acceptable to me. And I had done a vocal boot camp at this church, and no one had ever heard me sing before. So talk about being a little bit, crawl under a rock now, right? Because I had brought, I think there were at least half a dozen people in the room that I had brought up on stage during the boot camp and work through some singing stuff. So they had heard me lecture them on what not to do with their voice. And then, so you know that they're sitting there going, oh, you did that. So as a coach, it's even worse. It's like, I'm going to be screwed. So there were some ugly things that popped out of my mouth, and I did not like it. But I did what you have to do, and that is you have to have fun, because if you don't have fun, they will never have a good time. You have to let it go. You have to pretend it didn't happen, and you have to move on. You cannot think about it while you're in front of people. Can't happen, because as soon as that comes across in your brain, it comes across on your face, and then it projects to them, did you hear that screw up? Did you hear that note? Did you hear how bad I am? And that's what we tell our audience by our face. It happens in a split second and you cannot take it back. So when it comes out of your mouth, you get in the habit by performing more and having more opportunities to practice this. When it comes out your mouth, you don't let your face show it. Your face just shows, I'm enjoying this, I'm having a good time. Your brain goes, oh, file that away to think about later. But it's got to be a tuck it away for later, because you cannot serve your audience if you're thinking about yourself. And that goes for if you're thinking about how great you did too. I have totally screwed up a song because I was thinking, that went so great, I can't believe I did that. And then the next part, tank. Okay? As soon as you get your brain off of the story of the song and serving that audience and giving them a good time, or moving them emotionally if it's an emotional song, as soon as you get your brain off of that, then you're just toast. So that's the best advice, but that's still not the key tool I'm going to give you. Okay, so I screwed up, I was humiliated, and when I sat down at the end of it, I left as early as possible, because that's another tactic. If you don't want people, I never want to put people in the position to have to come up to me and say, oh, that was great, and see that look. And, maybe none of them would. I've done this meaning screwed up and survived enough that I think I know most of the people there didn't come away with remembering the screw ups, because I've tested this before. And if I hadn't tested it so many times, I wouldn't believe it were true. I would think there's no way. That's all I can think about. I know that's all I can think about is she missed that note, or she didn't do this on that note. And I thought she was going to do this. I screwed up the lyric at the end. I had them sing along with me. And it was, oh night divine, oh night divine. The last one is. And I sang, oh, holy night. And they all sang the right lyric and I sang the wrong one. So it's not like it wasn't obvious. Okay. Everybody knew. But if I did everything else right, meaning I served my audience and I didn't let my screw ups come through on my face, then what they left with is we got to sing those Christmas songs. And that reminds me of tradition and Christmas and all those great emotions. And that's what they walked out with. Now, if I did my job, I could have stuck around and been able to prove that I did my job by if anyone gave me that awkward smile when they said something nice. But I didn't want to put anyone in that position. And honestly, it'd been a really long day. So we took off to get some dinner at 9 o'clock at night-ish. So we took off. And I asked my husband, my rock, I said, how bad was it? Because I know my husband, like I said, we've got a bar. What we think is good is super, super high. He goes, wasn't your best. And I said, as much as I know, and I totally agree with you, and I know everything I did wrong, and I know that you're being honest, my ego in the middle of this is still kind of crushed. And I probably should have waited you asked this question. And I knew better than doing that, because I know the tool that I'm going to give to you. And I did not do it. And as soon as he said that, it wasn't your best, there was a great reminder in my brain, you stupid idiot. Use the flippin' tool you make all your singers use, you stupid idiot. The 24-hour rule. What are you doing? You know better. What is the 24-hour rule, you ask? It's going to be the thing that keeps you from never being able to crawl out from underneath a bad singing fail rock again and face people. Because singing in front of people teaches you things and gives you opportunities as a singer you cannot get anywhere else. You cannot learn to serve other people and really feed a crowd. Really, that's what you do. Instead of a soup line, you've got a song line, right? Your job is to either entertain them or to make them feel something emotional, or if you're in a worship context, it's to get them focusing on God. But there is a purpose in the music that we sing in front of people that goes so far beyond the words and the notes. And if we sing the right words, and if we hit the right notes, and if we do the big note the way we planned on doing the big note, no one knows how you planned on doing it anyway, so let yourself off the hook. But using the 24-hour rule will enable you to get back up again and sing, even in front of people that you have failed horrifically in front of, and especially in front of the very few people who actually know and remember and will remind you that you failed. Like, I knew my husband would be honest with me. That's why I don't ask if I look fat in those pants. Just saying. Doesn't matter what size I am, what decade it was. I never ask him if I look fat in these pants or this dress or anything else. I just never ask, because I know I can't. I really don't want to know the answer to that question. Now, I asked if that's how bad it was. I knew it was bad, and I knew I shouldn't have asked that question, or I wouldn't have phrased it that way. And I also know enough to know that it was stupid of me to ask right after a gig. Because the 24-hour rule, write this down, remember it, it will save you as a live performer. The 24-hour rule has to do with the neurology of being a singer. And it has to do with the psychology, really, of being a performer. So both of those things. It literally is the way that our brain functions. And through all of my medical disasters, them killing my voice twice and almost dying 3 times and all of that, and all the brain damage I survived and had to recover from, I forgot how to harmonize for years because of my brain damage. I lost a lot of things. I couldn't sing. I couldn't find notes for a while. I had to figure that out again. And I had to, I couldn't put words together in a sentence for a while. Harmony was really hard to recover, even though I had harmonized since I was 4. So I had a lot of massive brain damage, and I got the opportunity to work with a lot of neurologists, really great specialists. And that, when I put that together with what I learned physically about vocal recovery, it was like it wasn't a light bulb moment. It was like a stadium worth of spotlight light bulb moment. And the 24-hour rule comes from, while it was something I developed before all my damage, it's something that I understand on a completely different level now. Because now that I understand the neurology and the psychology behind us as a performer and a singer, now I understand why it works. So I want to explain that part of it too. Here it is. The 24-hour rule is this. From the moment you stop singing at the end of a gig or one song, whatever it is, when you sing in front of other people, it can be one other person, it doesn't matter, because your ego honestly is probably more easily damaged in front of one person than it is in front of 40,000 people. Actually, I know it is because I've done both. It is easier to sing in front of a large crowd because you go, chances are that they heard that over the crowd noise. Chances are they were paying attention to me or nil. Chances are that they were singing along and they didn't really hear that, even though the tower speaker is 3 stories high. You justify all these things. I didn't really see their eyeballs. They probably didn't really see me. But when there's 1 or 2 people there, they know. They heard it, right? It gets really hard. So 24 hours from when you end that singing, that song, that gig, whatever, you choose to not think on anything, no opinion. You have no opinion about how you did, none. And it is not easy when you start doing this because you've been doing it the other way your entire life, haven't you? Kevin, have you? The first thing we do, like before we walk down off the platform, off the stage, first thing we do is, that was sucky. Well, I screwed up this, and then there was that, and there was this. And as you're walking out talking to people, you're still filing that whole list of what you did wrong. Oh man, I should have done this if I'd only done that. And somebody sabotaged me, or whatever the excuses for yourself or anybody else are. It runs like a script. You don't even really pay attention to people because you're thinking about that. And then you think about it all the way home. And then you get home and you think about it for the rest of the night or the day. Then you think about it as you're going to sleep that night. And then you wake up the next morning, you're still thinking about it. You probably dreamed about it, right? The psychology and the neurology of it is, when we have something that we need to learn from, and that's what mistakes are, right? Fails are opportunities if we know what to do with them. When we fail and want to learn from it, if you don't want to learn from it, just give yourself a hard time. If you want to feel bad, have at it. But if you don't, you have to stop that flow of information on that subject because we have a conflict of interests. We have your ego, which is there to protect you, right? It's there to make sure that you don't embarrass yourself. Your ego has been bruised. Doesn't matter if the fail was your fault or not. And quite honestly, every time there's been a fail, I would say over 70% of the chance that it was my fault when there's a fail. It happens that it's somebody else's fault too, but the more you sing, the more chances you get to learn how to pick up from other fails and not make them look like fails. And even though you knew you failed, you didn't do it the way you practiced or the way you planned, they didn't catch it. So that's easy to deal with. But knowing you did something, it's been many years, you don't beat yourself that much. Yes, Kevin, and all you guys out there, this is easier for guys than it is for girls because we tend to rehash things and we tend to get a little bit more emotional. Not everybody's the same, but when it comes to feeling bad about something, we rehash. Women do a lot more often than men do. Men are like, yeah, whatever, blow it off. Let's go out and get some food, right? Girls are like, yeah, let's go get dinner. I hate myself. But for both, 24-hour rule, if you will wait If you will say, every time something comes up in your head and you go, man, I screwed that up, or oh, I can't believe they heard this, anything that starts coming up, you go, no, not yet, not yet. You just stop in the middle and say, not yet. You have 24 hours. If you can wait 24 hours before you think about how you did, 48 is better, by the way. When you're starting, start with 48. If you have a real problem with this, 48. If you're Kevin, start with 24. Okay? And Kevin, if you've done something that's really embarrassing. Now, Kevin, I bet that if you were to sing something in front of not your current atmosphere you're usually used to being in as a musician, but if you were asked to go sing without an instrument and sing something you're not used to singing in, like, let's say it's in a convention center hotel room for 300 people, and you made a mistake, that it would hit you a little bit more personally than it would if you're in your comfort zone and you know people know you and they know that they've heard your good stuff, so they're going to forgive you for your bad stuff. Because when you gig, you get one shot at those people to impress them. But really, it's not about impressing them. Okay, so psychologically, when you wait 24 hours or more, you allow that id, that part of your personality that can really get damaged and feel bad, and that spills over into not wanting to sing again, and it becomes a motivating factor, a negative motivating factor. That has a chance to settle down. That also gives you the ability to, when you want to, when you choose to, and I think that there needs to be a time after any performance that you spend a moment, even if it's when you're driving in the car, and say, okay, now I'm going to kind of just go over what I think went wrong, why it went wrong, and how I can do that better. Because if you can't make a difference from a fail, it stays a fail. Okay? There needs to be a time when you go over it, but it cannot be within the first 24 hours. And in the first 24 hours, there's something else you can do to make fails not undermine you. And that is stay for all the compliments. Anybody that gives you something, you may, and usually we do misconstrue things as, yeah, that was great. When they were like, yeah, that was great. And they didn't say, yeah, that was great. We can take it to be more negative than it is. And we always do that right afterwards if we feel bad about something. So here's what you do in the first 24 hours. You are not allowed to have your own opinion about your performance at all. You stop it. As soon as it starts, you say, not yet, not yet, not yet. But you have to accept every compliment you get. You have to accept it at face value. If someone says, you are the best performer in the world, you don't get to think, no, I'm not. You don't get to. You have to stop yourself. You have to say, wow, that was an incredible comment. If you can't say, wow, I mean, you're not going to agree with that because you feel crappy, right? You get to take every compliment and you get to say, wow, I did something that made that audience member feel like that. Look what I did. Because you have to find out what you succeeded at as much as what you failed at before you can really take a look at how you get better the next time you gig. Okay? So if you don't stay and listen to those compliments, and if you don't stop and listen to those compliments, you are missing half of the information you need to make your next performance better. So you don't get to have an opinion about yourself. Stop it as soon as it starts. Not yet. Anybody says anything, you absorb it with a smile as information. Okay, take it in, make sure you know what they're saying and how they're saying it. You need to remember it because that's the other equation that you need for, it can be 10 days down the road. It really doesn't matter. Sometimes, I know my daughter, I took her to do X Factor one year. She wanted to do it. So we went and did X Factor, and I went and did it with her because she was really shy and she didn't want to do it, and I didn't want to do it, but it was like, I'm going to do it with her because she's my daughter. I'm not going to make her do all that by herself when I know I can perfectly capable of failing alongside her. Totally do that. So when you're in an environment that's high stress like that and you do something that you don't feel good about, sometimes you give yourself a month. It depends on how much you feel like crawling under a rock and how big that rock is and how deeply you want to tunnel in. Okay? So be kind to yourself and understand that this is normal, because when we're performing in front of people, we put everything we are out on a buffet table. And we just say, isn't it a lovely mess? And we hope people say yes. How do you get people to say yes? By telling them, aren't you having fun? Yes! Getting them to sing along, interacting with them, those kind of things. The very least, if you don't talk or interact or some gigs just aren't appropriate for you to do that, like a wedding or a funeral, it's connecting with your eyes. It's being able to sing the story, not the song. Those are the things that take people on an emotional journey, just like a movie does. A song should move people the same way a really good movie does. And any singer at any level of ability can do this. I've seen some people that can hardly carry a note do this masterfully. So there is no excuse for anyone. Now, we always want to hit the notes, right? I mean, it's kind of why I help people do what I do, right? But the reality is sometimes we screw up, and being live, you're never going to be perfect, okay? So wait 24 hours longer if you need it. Then you decide when that time is going to be that you're going to learn from that. And then you have to have both of those sides of information. You have to say, what did I screw up? So what do I remember from my gig this weekend? It's not a good idea not to have ever worked with a musician before, but I knew that before, right? So I knew it wasn't a good idea. It wasn't ideal. It was the only, it had to be the way it was. It had to be last minute because of all the mandates. That was out of our control. So I just take that off the list. There's nothing I can do about that, right? I also know better that I knew I should have done things and practiced songs in a bunch of different keys because I knew there were going to be a lot of unknowns, and that's on me. And that means that I need to make my really good close friends and students totally blast me the next time I sign up for something and say, you did it, didn't you? You ran it in 6 different keys, didn't you? So I give other people permission to, say, hey, that, because I chose not to. Why did I choose not to? Because time was short. I had other things. I got busy, and I thought I'll probably be able to pull it off. And that was lazy of me. So I should have run in a bunch of different keys, even though I had one day to do it. I should have run in a bunch of different keys and decided how I needed to do it if I changed keys. I didn't do that. So I need to know that next time, stop being such an arrogant jerk and make sure you do it even if you have 2 hours. Just don't be like that, okay? Okay, that's what I'm going to do next time, and I'm going to make sure that I have other people nag me so that I have a backup system. What else went wrong? I sang the wrong words. That happens sometimes. I knew the words, sung the song a million times. There's nothing else I could have done differently. That's off my list. Okay, so there are different things like the mic was too hot and we had to bring it down, and it never got down enough that I felt like I had to keep backing off, and I was doing some power notes. And because I was trying to back off, guitar was really quiet, mic was really loud. I was backing off in the note, and that creates instability in the voice. And I happen to know what goes wrong in the body when it goes wrong. So as it's going wrong, I know what I'm doing wrong. It's like a double whammy. But I know that if I am ever in a situation again where I have either an instrument that's not turned up enough that I can approach a power note the way I want to or need to or whatever, and that is the case, and it just doesn't get turned up, or my mic just doesn't get turned down. That's kind of, you're at somebody else's mercy there. If that happens, I need to make sure I never think so boldly as to think I am going to be as successful blasting that stinker out than if I would just back off and match the volume of the instrument as people hear it. That would be more successful. It wouldn't have been as fun for me, right? But I also wouldn't have failed as much on that big note. It was fun to sing, but I did fail on it. And if I just done the thing that was best for the situation, I could have fixed that. Is that helpful at all? Do you think that might change anything that you might do going forward? The 24-hour rule, or maybe the 7-day rule for you. Sometimes, there have been a couple times in my life, it's been a 2-week rule where you have to set a time where you go over the good and bad. So you have to listen to the good, but you have to ignore the bad until that set time. And then you have to pretend you are your manager. You unplug from your personality. You say, here's the good, here's the bad. Here's what was out of my control. Here's what was in my control. Now, I'm going to get out there and sing again. Why? Because I've just enabled myself to pick myself off the floor and crawl out from underneath that rock because I have the 24-hour rule. So now I know what I need to make sure that I put into practice the next time to limit my fails. Now, here's the beautiful thing about performing live and singing live. The more you get out there, the more opportunities you have to fail. And the more opportunities you get to fail, the more opportunities you have 24, 48, 7 days, 6 months later. It shouldn't be that long. It shouldn't be more than a month ever, 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 ever. It should really be about 48 hours max, unless you're really hurt about it, because then your ego isn't ready. If you have more chances to go over what went wrong, what went right, what can I just blow off because it was out of my control? Because if you don't physically do that, I mean, if you don't mentally do that, a lot of times it gets mixed in with all the things we did do wrong. And it just makes that pile of oh no's bigger. And that's what we think about the next time we're asked to sing or we get an opportunity to volunteer for something, and we think of that big ball of what happened. Okay, we need to reduce that ball of what happened to what really was within your control. And then once you say, if I did this, this, and this, I could have further minimized my chance of those things going wrong. Now, when you do that, the next time you have an opportunity to volunteer for something or you're asked to sing at something, that objection ball is much, much smaller. Not only is it much, much smaller, but it also has potential answers to remove it. So you're going to be much more capable, much more eager, much more ready to take advantage of the opportunities that you have to sing. And then when you get out there to sing, you're going to make different fails. And then you're going to come away with new information, and you're going to get a chance to reduce those too. I've been singing publicly since I was 4. I've been in front of hundreds of people since I was 4 years old. My entire life. I am well over 40 now. Okay? I've done it tons of times. I fail every time I sing. The goal is, I was sharing this with a guitarist, the only difference between a professional singer and a non-professional singer, well, besides the money, but when you look at skill-wise, the only difference is knowing how to fail better, because everybody fails. It's just knowing how to fail better. Now, I made some fails that I know for an absolute fact that at least a few people in that audience heard, saw, and identified as absolute fails. Other singers. I know it definitively because I did a boot camp there. And I know how they sing, and I know what I told them to do, and I know what they were listening for because I told them to listen for it. So I know absolutely it's true. So I know I can't brush it off on they probably didn't hear it because they had such a great time. But I know that the rest of them did have a good time. And I know this because of the comments I got at the end. And would you believe it? At the end, people still came up before I scooted out and said, "You have such a beautiful voice." I'm like, see? This is what happens if you will give people a great experience, if you will sing the story. It's just like an actor in a movie. If you will plug them into the emotion of the song, and if you will look at them, look at your people, or at least over the tops of their heads while you're singing and communicate with them and draw them into it, especially if you get an opportunity to let people sing along, you make them a part of it. You make them own it. And they hear their own mistakes, and they're going to think about those before they'll ever think about yours. FYI. So, I want to tell you a little secret as I close today, okay? Something I did knowing I was failing in the moment, well, knowing right before the event that I was going to fail in some places because of all the obstacles we had last minute. I made some changes to fail less, obviously. I knew I was going to fail in some things because it was so last minute, and I knew I hadn't run it in a bunch of different keys, and that was my fail, but it was too late. So one of the things that I did, and I explained this to the guitarist afterwards, that it's not about being great. It's about knowing how to minimize the way you fail. I knew that there were going to be some fails, potentially some horrific fails on song number 2 and number 3 because of just everything that had gone on. So I told him when we started that I might at the like on the middle song, have them sing along on one chorus or something. I changed it right before I didn't tell him. When we got up there, I talked, and then I changed the whole second and third song. And I started at the first song, now that I think of it. I had everybody sing along to everything. Now, I did that for several reasons. First of all, as a singer, I did it because people don't get a chance to sing, and singing is fun. And whether you hit a note or not, you should be able to sing. And the more chances I can get people to sing, that's kind of my passion. So I did it for a good reason. But selfishly, as a singer, as a performer, let me put it that way. As a performer, I also know that if they're singing along, they will pay attention to anything they don't like in their own voice, and they will be distracted from what you do wrong. So, was that a bad thing to do? I don't know. You can decide. It was a smart thing to do because it minimized my failure quotient in the mind of the audience. Now, people can do this for the right reason, the wrong reason. You can say, so people think I'm better. I don't so much care about that because I fail plenty, and if people get to hear me sing more than once, they'll get to hear me fail in all sorts of different places. And I like when students get to hear, because they can point out the fails, and it teaches them that we all fail, right? And the more you know about how to listen for professional fails, it gets to be really fun, I think. So there's that. But the other thing is that the goal is to have the audience have an experience to emotionally respond to the music, whether that means party or crying, to respond to the story of the song. And when they sing along, they get a much closer connection to the song. So that means that they get a better chance. I upped my chance of them having a greater experience too, while diminishing my risk for having my fails remembered. Just a little hint you might want to try when it is appropriate, wherever you're singing. I'm so glad, Kevin, that you're not so harsh on yourself anymore. I want to challenge you all to get out and sing. Now, if you cannot get out there and sing, I understand, but I want you to plan for it. I want you to start thinking now, when I have the opportunity, where can I go? Is there a coffee house? Is there a place that I can get a guitarist if I don't play and busk? You know, just means sing out in the street, put a hat out for money. You'd be surprised how much money you can make just singing, even if you don't do well. It's a great place to test out material. Okay, so I want you to plan for it. This is an incredible goal. And then I want to make sure that you know that starting in the first of the new year, I'm going to walk you through how to use free GarageBand and record your own project, regardless of if you're a really, really bad singer in your own mind. Trust me, there is a diamond under every piece of coal. I have heard all sorts of voices, and there ain't a voice I've met yet that can't sing. Just saying. You just haven't found your way past the coal yet. Okay? All right. So if you have access to a Mac by the new year, I want you to join us for our series of tutorials about how to record yourself. We're going to move from GarageBand all the way through Logic, which is a professional. If we learn GarageBand, we can do Logic. That's why I'm going to walk you through it. And there's a 90-day free trial I hope will still be available in the new year of Logic, so you can actually test out professional software and learn how to make yourself sound great in the studio. So then I want you to do a recording project the new year. That is going to make you such a better musician and get you ready for when you're going to sing live. Okay. Tell me what you want me to tell you in these live streams. I will teach you anything you want to know. Leave it in the comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I failed by letting people sing along, if I was disguising my own ego, or if I was really helping the people. I'm open to criticism. I've had a lot. I'm really good at it. Okay? Thank you so much for joining the live stream or watching it in replay. Thank you, Kevin, for finding us on YouTube, because Facebook's down today. For everybody else, it'll be up soon. All right. Have a great time. We're changing the time a little bit for the live streams. The algorithm is telling us when to try to do it, so we may move it around a little bit. Get on our mailing list at thevoiceclub.com, and you'll know when the live streams are going to change, if they change time and date, so you cannot miss one. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and it will always tell you when they're out, okay? Get out there. Even out there just means your own bedroom. Get out there and sing.